Hello everyone. In this session we will understand special data type in C#. Well, if I list it out, we have object data type, second one is var, more precisely if I say anonymous data type. Third one is dynamic data type. We will understand one by one, but let's first understand object data type. When I say object data type, is basically used when we cannot specify, when we cannot specify the object type at compile time. There we can use this object data type. More precisely, if I say it is used for interoperability. Interoperability. Now, why it is used is because it can save or it can store any data type values. So if I have object a equals to 10, it can store it is storing right now integer data type, right? Instead of that, if I have any string, it can store that too in this a, no problem, that is valid. If I, instead of that, if I have any float values like this, it's stored in a, no problem. Okay, all these things are valid. So object data type can store any data type in an object data type. Okay, so this object is a root type in C#2. It's coming from system.object. Okay, it's coming from system.object. Okay, and it is a root type in C#. So, and it is also used for interoperability is because let's say if I have a if I have a class sample, let's say in this class I have some members, let's say integer salary, or let me have integer age, let me have a string name, and I have float salary. If I have these three data types and I want to use some kind of concept, let's say indexers or something like that, and I want to store all three entries in one data type, what data type I can use? I can use object data type, because as integer, string, float can easily be stored in object data type, so I can use that, right? So instead of using three data types, I can take one data type and that can store these three entries. That is object data type. Let's understand in Visual Studio. So I have my project here. Let me increase the font a little. Okay, now if I say object, you can see object, it's coming in the IntelliSense. So object data type, object, in a very similar way use integer, float, and decimal, and some or those kind of data types. In a very similar way it is also fetched in IntelliSense. So object a equals to 10, and if I print this console dot write line, and let's see this, is it valid or not. So if I run this, it'll run. See, there is an entry of 10 instead of 10. Let me just zoomify. Okay, okay, so yeah, this is completely slow. Okay, now instead of 10, if I have 1.110 or something like that, if I try to run this, it will also, you can see 1.1, it is running. Instead of float value, if I have any string, it's still working. See, okay, so you can store any data type inside a. So it is coming from, you can see, class system.object. So if I click and go to definition, it goes to the class object and there is an entry of that. Okay, so this is an object data type, and these are the basic, this is public object, you can see, and this object method holds all these things. These are the by default method, and you can access these methods anywhere in the project. Okay, so now I have this thing, but the problem with this data type is basically, let me deal with this project. Let me deal with the problem. So object a equals to, let's say I have object a equals to 10 and object b equals to 20, and I want to add this. So object c equals to a plus b. If I have this entry and if I want to print this console.writeLine, if I try to print this, if I try to run this, you see there is an error. What error says? Operator plus cannot be applied to operands of type object and object. What type of object? See, says that this is right now this is 10 and I suppose this is integer data type, right? But at compile time it is not taking it as an integer data type. It is taking it as an object data type. So that's the problem. It is not integer, it is object data type, and that's why the error is object plus object. You cannot do any mathematical operation on the object data type. So that's the problem. What's the problem in object data type? You cannot operate or you cannot use any mathematical operations on two object data types or any other object data type. So that's the problem, and that's why it is not adding. So how to resolve this? With the help of explicit typecasting, I think. So if I use integer, now a got the integer data type and b got the integer data type. Now this problem can be resolved. See, 30. Okay. So that's the problem, that it cannot, it is an object data type and not the integer data type. Object plus object cannot do mathematical operation, but if you use explicit typecasting, you can do that. Okay, so this is the object data type, and the next session we will understand where and dynamic data types. I hope you understand it. Thank you so much for listening.